gets hurt even worse, and that's what's happened with John Wall, whose doctor diagnosed a partially torn Achilles tendon while addressing an infection from the left heel surgery that already had him out for the rest of the season. The prognosis now, the five-time All-Star is expected to miss somewhere between 11 and 15 months, so a year moving forward with the Washington Wizards. This came from Fred Katz, who covers the team for The Athletic. That 12-month timetable the Wizards provided for Wall is the center of a range, the doctor says. That range is 11 to 15 months, which means Wall could miss all of next season, too. Let's bring in Fred Katz with us for more on this story. And Fred, when you think about this timeline, first of all, anyone who keeps up with the NBA has seen a torn Achilles before. It's usually a very sudden and fairly obvious injury, but that wasn't the case here. What were the circumstances that led to this particular diagnosis?
Yeah, that was kind of the surprising part to me, and something that we had a conference call with the surgeon who actually performed John Wall's second surgery. He's now going to have a third one, which was just a cleanup because he had an infection from the first one, which was initially to remove bone spurs from the heel. I know, it's a lot of surgeries and a lot to follow. And when they were in there, they noticed, while doing the cleanup, that Wall had actually ruptured the Achilles there. Turns out, the team says, and the team doctor says, that Wall slipped in the shower about a week ago, and that's where they think that he actually hurt it there, and he didn't even realize at the time that he had ruptured his Achilles, which is shocking to me. I've never ruptured my Achilles before, but it's notoriously an extremely painful injury.
Right.
Supposedly he heard nothing pop and wasn't sure exactly how it happened, and they theorized that this is when it happened because it makes the most sense, but it doesn't sound like they're able to pinpoint an exact moment where the Achilles ruptured. Yeah,
I've never done it either, but I've witnessed in person it happen plenty of times, and that player knows immediately that something bad has happened. Well, what, if anything, does this change about the Wizards' calculus for the trade deadline coming up?
Yeah, I'll have a story about that either later tonight or tomorrow on The Athletic, basically outlining it. From the sense that I'm getting from the organization, I don't think it changes very much. I mean, Wall was going to be out for the season regardless because he had those bone spurs removed, and they had a long timetable on that, 6 to 8 months anyway. And so he wasn't coming back this season no matter what, regardless. The only thing that I could think of that maybe it could possibly change is that they're pretty much capped out this summer. They're not going to have roster flexibility, and they've got Thomas Satoransky going into restricted free agency. If somebody makes Satoransky a huge offer and they feel like they just can't match it, whether because of tax concerns or because they just don't feel like he's worth it, and there are a couple teams out there that are really desperate for point guards, Orlando or Phoenix or something like that. If they strike out on point guards this summer and they just make him an offer 2 weeks into free agency because he's one of those restricted guys who lingers, they just don't have a point guard. I mean, they're playing with Jason Randall as their backup point guard right now. They're just not really going to have a point guard. So one thing they could do is they could trade for a guy who's under contract for 2019-20 and really make a trade more for next year than for this year, because Wall's going to miss a significant chunk of next season. But I still am not sure that they're going to do that, just because I think their mantra right now, along with wanting to stay competitive and wanting to make the playoffs, is not wanting to take on any extra dollars, considering they've already got an expensive roster for a team that's 9 under 500. So I wouldn't say there's a 0% chance of that, but I kind of think they're just going to end up standing pat regardless.
Appreciate the time, Fred. Fred Katz with us from The Athletic in Washington after a stunner of a day for the Washington Wizards. And guys, as you know, just to remind folks at home, Wall has a 4-year, $170 million extension about to kick in for a team that's already kind of capped out.
Yeah, there's not a lot of flexibility there when you have numbers like that. And what's interesting to me, and what Fred said that's meaningful, is their plan really doesn't change. He was already out. I think what it does do, though, is it gives you plausible deniability, maybe, if you decide that from this point forward, you have to make everything about building around Brad Beal. It would surprise me if they make a deal with Beal or Porter, even if they were trying to improve their financial situation, because it's hard to imagine how you're going to be elite without those two guys in the immediate future. And they've already made it very clear they don't want to tank. They don't want to go backwards very far, to go forwards. So it puts you in a spot where you almost have to just accept that this is what it's going to look like. And incrementally, you're going to have to get yourself out of the tax, stay out of harm's way in that way, so that when you are ready to win, you don't have repeater issues.
Think about that timeline for a second. Based on that 11 to 15 months timeline, John Wall could easily miss all of next season as well for the Washington Wizards. All right.